Hi Bubble Art Journalers. In this video we're going to look at another nature texture painting technique. We had done the geodes in the last videos, and so this time I'm going to do sort of a wood grain effect, and I am just doing a small piece about the size that would be in the margin of your Bible. So we're just going to do that on here and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a large flat brush so that I can do a wash of water across the whole page. And you want to be fairly generous so it doesn't dry before you get the next things done. Get a light brown, or take a brown and get lots of water added to it so that you lighten the color. And you just want to spread it on, and you want to work in the direction of creating some grains. And so pretty much everything I do is going to be straight up and down on the page this time, because eventually we want it to look like wood grain going up and down. So you can see I have a really light wash in there. There's some darker and lighter areas. That's what you want, some variation in there. You don't want it to be one flat wash of color. You want some variation. And then we're going to try and take some cues from where the darker colors are as to where we're going to lay our grain. Before this is completely dry, but it's starting to dry, I'm going to go ahead and come back in with my smaller brush, and I'm just going to do some streaks up the page and sort of let the water work with them. So there you can see how this is bleeding out really nicely. I like the way that looks. And I did that very uniform, and I didn't mean to. So I'm going to add a couple more here. And then you can also, you can kind of do some circles like this. And those will sort of lay down a start to maybe where there's a knot in the wood. Okay, once you have some of the next layer on, I'll let that dry, and then I'm going to come in with another layer, just kind of going over those areas where it's starting to darken up. Okay, so now it's fairly dry. It's cold to the touch, so it's still a little bit damp, but it's okay. At this point, I don't mind a little more bleed out. But I'm just going to go over these same areas that are starting to form kind of darker with just another color of brown to give it another dimension. And I'm not going exactly over, just kind of right in that same area. If that makes sense. I'm really not adding much to the areas that are still looking very white. Just going over these darker to give them another dimension. So you're just building up layer on layer. And really, I didn't look at a picture and decide this is what the grain should look like, just based on how the colors went down in that first wash, kind of started giving me some of these lines, and then we added some dark lines, and then we just keep building on wherever those end up falling. Okay, now at this point, if you wanted to let it dry again, and if you wanted the back color to be a little darker and not so white, you could let this dry and you could do a translucent color over the whole thing. So maybe I'll try and show you that. I'm going to make sure it's completely dry though. Alright, so it's completely dry. It's not cool to the touch. And I'm going to go ahead with another wash over the whole top piece. Just to kind of enrich the color of the paper behind, so that we don't, if you want a really light wood, you could leave it. I just wanted to show you that you can go over, and because watercolor is so translucent, and that's one of the properties we like about it, we can, when it's completely dry, you can layer over the top and you're still gonna see those layers underneath. Alright, so now we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to do a little pen over the top of that for our final step. Okay, it's fairly dry, so maybe I'll try and zoom in a little bit so you can see this part a little clearer. Sorry, I'm going to shake the camera. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add some kind of scratchy light lines to help give the illusion of the more grain. This is a very sketched watercolor look, maybe not 100% natural like we did with our rocks. I'm using a 0.25 illustrated faith pen, and I'm just putting some broken lines in, and I can do it on this little knot we made here too. So it doesn't have to be a solid line, kind of a broken line's okay, and sort of doubling it up a little bit is fine too. And then just following the cues of those dark lines again. My paper's not behaving very well because it got bent when it dried. But you can kind of see then how it has the look of the wood grain, and very simple. You could do this right in the margin. You wouldn't have to do it on a separate piece of paper. In fact, because this paper is heavier, that's why it's buckling. Your Bible pages, you know, kind of wrinkle a little when we use watercolor, but then they straighten out once the book is closed for a while. So I hope you'll try the wood grain technique, and I could see doing some lettering over this in the margin, and I think I may end up using this to do a page here in the near future.